to turn these mics. There we go.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hannah Fidell, Revolori, and Mantzoukas. Nick Kroll, everybody. Is there any
Are
difference?
these doing anything
These
for us?
Can you hear us?
Can you crank these like so
Can
hard?
we crank it? Can we crank these mics?
These mics?
Okay. I'm going to put the mic down.
You go ahead and I'll just
Hello?
do
Okay, there we go. All right.
It's on, but
All right.
you gotta kind of do this.
I guess let's start at the end. What do you think? Do you think Richard won? Yes. What do you guys think?
Raise your hands if you think he won.
Yeah. Wow. What an optimistic group of people at a deeply pessimistic time in history. Richard is the great hope.
If we played it till the end, you would see the mushroom cloud. The end of this movie is nuclear war.
That obviously is the underlying message of the film, and I'm not gonna. Hannah, when you wrote this film, were you thinking? You co-wrote the film, is that right?
Yes.
Of course, and directed it yourself.
Yes. Is this on?
Yes. Yes.
But you have to like really get it up in there.
This is like this might be the dumbest question, but.
Ask that dumb question.
Why did you cast Jason Mantzoukas?
How dare you?
No, why? Like, why did you decide to make this film? Why?
I wonder why everyone keeps asking me that.
Well, can I make my assumption? And
yeah,
then,
please.
Well, not assumption, but it's you are. I think it's expected as a young female filmmaker that you are going to tell a young female story.
Yeah.
But you've told a story about two men at different points in life.
Yeah.
And so it's unexpected for you to do that.
Sure.
Based on the current, what we assume why people do things.
That's exactly why.
Okay, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
As a sort of progressive act in a lot of ways, because it is very easy for a female filmmaker to get boxed into making one type of movie. If you're a drama director, you make stories about women going crazy or love stories. I've done both of those already. And if you're a comedy director, you do a movie about women. And like, I've certainly spent my whole life watching movies about women directed by men. I don't know why I can't direct a movie about men. Myself, I certainly spend enough time with them. So, yeah.
Not everybody knows, but that you live in a fraternity house with just all men, like getting it done, figuring it out.
Yeah.
That's where she found me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys? How did you two? Hannah? How did these guys come onto the film? How did you guys hear about it? What was that process?
Well, I guess the easy answer is I met with both of them, and I fell in love with both of them, and I saw them in the roles very clearly, and we went on a hike, and
We both died.
Yeah, we died, but we
You
came
both
back
died
to
on a
life.
hike?
We both died on a hike.
Well, that's a real scoop.
That's an exclusive for you guys. There are
AMC.
ghosts in the room.
And we went and got coffee, and my voice cracked like a million times because I'm such a fan.
You
And
did
that's
coffee
what
and went on
happened.
a hike with me?
I know. Well, we also got coffee.
We did get coffee.
Yeah. And no, I like casting people who, who are nice. I have a no assholes
Yes.
policy.
Great.
So if I can.
But that's like only a few of you. Most of the crowd was like, more assholes.
Whoever didn't just clap, get the fuck out.
This will be a very
So anyway, yeah, that's the story.
And you two have just terrific chemistry together. Yeah, clap sure for that. Oftentimes in these kinds of films, there isn't a lot of time to get to know someone or have rehearsal. Did you guys do anything? How did you guys just start shooting? How did that come together for you?
Well, we first met doing an escape room per the request and forgiveness of our director.
In LA or in Albuquerque?
LA.
Okay.
Oh, thank
Because
God
we'd
it
never
wasn't-
met. We'd
We've
never
never
met,
met.
and we weren't going to meet until we would be in Albuquerque to shoot.
Right.
So Hannah was like, why don't you guys go and do an escape room? Because we were going to overlap for a
one
couple
day.
of nights in
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah.
And so we went, just the two of us, and did a full escape room. That was like, to completion, we got the fuck out of there.
With like 5 minutes to spare.
But it was like the kind of escape room that like clearly groups were meant to do. So we were just the two of us, and the guy was like, "Okay, where's the rest of your people?" And we were like, "Nope, just us." And he was like, "Oh, oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna lock you in this jail cell and you in this jail cell. I'm gonna need you to put these shirts on." I was like, "No, thank you.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not interested in communal shirts that everybody who comes to the escape room, quote unquote, wears."
You did.
But I did, and we got out, you guys, so that we could join you here tonight.
Now, you guys shot the film in beautiful Albuquerque, New Mexico.
America's premier escape room. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Get out if you can. It is not easy.
We have 3 people up there.
Three
We
people
made it
here
out.
from Albuquerque. Yeah, Albuquerque,
Any
baby.
crew members here? Any people who worked on the film?
Nope. Nope.
They're all dead.
They're all
They did not escape.
But Albuquerque is not the easiest place to live, to shoot. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. We shot when we started shooting, which was in January of 2016. 17. We there was a windstorm and an ice storm, and there was a point. Yeah.
I think that was just crystal meth addicts.
But there was a point we were driving to location, which, by the way, all of our locations are also Hell or High Water locations.
Oh.
So this movie
fact.
functions as a sequel to
Yeah.
Hell or High Water if you watch it correctly.
Which one of you is Chris Pine?
I mean, isn't that obvious?
There you go.
But yeah, that was a dangerous day.
I remember our one of our producers, Duffy.
Yeah.
He drove our actual picture car, which is really an old car and not really. I mean, you guys tuned it up and everything.
Yeah.
I remember we were driving. We saw a car in a ditch, completely 90 degrees up, and police pulling it out. And right after, 30 seconds later, our car spun around about 10 times, and we just both looked at each other and we were like, "So we're not getting the set today, are we?"
Whoa. Did it really? Was it the wind? What
It
was
was
the?
it was both the wind and
It was
the
ice.
It was
road
like
was
ice.
completely filled with ice.
Yeah.
I don't think
It's
people-
hard making moves.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This.
Our lives are so hard.
I was actually going to say, what did you find to be the single hardest thing? Because I think, obviously, we've all seen our stories and know that, like, making an independent film is hard. But, like, people don't realize, I think, quite how challenging it can be. What was the most challenging thing for you guys trying to get this movie done?
Besides working with Jason?
Yeah. There was a lot of that on set. I know that.
I suspect, I don't know, I'm curious what you guys would think. I suspect the hardest thing is just you want more time.
Yeah.
You want more days, you want more time. Like you are, forced to shoot very long days, or especially like the driving stuff. you know, we'd get like really stuck in that car for days on end, and it was, you know, exhausting and cold, but it was fun. We had like
We
a
were
really
in
good
the
time.
car for like
Days
2
weeks?
days.
6
on
weeks?
end.
6 weeks solid in just the car.
And she would not let us out of the car.
Yeah, she made us wear diapers. I said, I've got to get out and pee because you're making me drink all these fake beers. And she said, you piss in your pants. You do
But
that.
That's what
It was
real
surprising.
actors do.
Yes, she said that's if Daniel Day-Lewis was there, he would shit his pants. And I did.
By the way, this is a
Okay,
good level
I
of
like this crowd. Now I'm on board.
This is the level of dedication that Jason brings to every role.
Yeah.
That's why
It was
I'm
also-
very happy to announce
Yes.
how he's on the short list to be an Oscar nominated for
Oh,
this
yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Very
So
excited.
we take care.
Very
Round
excited.
of applause,
Very exciting.
because he did an amazing job.
Thank you so much, you guys. It means so much to me.
I wanted to, every time I go to these things, I always feel like people have questions, and people like me ask too many questions. I wanted to open it up to folks if people have questions for people in the cast. Yes, sir.
Why are you here? Were you involved in this?
Yeah, get out of here! Nick Kroll, everybody.
Shame is the leading by an audience. A true act of generosity turns into something that makes him feel bad. Thanks a lot, asshole.
Oh, no!
You don't get a second question, you turd. Who else has got a question? And it better be, well, why is that guy such an asshole? Okay, right here, you
I
have a question?
Oh!
Everybody, Nick Kroll!
Thanks so much. Back in action. You right here, you had your hand up?
Yo, Ron, let me say your first and only choice for Francois. Were there other people who were running for that?
Oh, interesting question.
Ooh! What a delicious question!
No, he was my first choice. Loved him. He's great. He's Francois. I love seeing him play someone evil and against type. He's great.
It's against type.
I always think Ron Livingston is evil, though.
My point exactly.
He's the villain of Swingers. Yes, go
Back
ahead.
up there?
Yeah. Did
Oh,
you
sorry.
do any rewriting after you chose the actors? Did they help with any rewrites? How'd that work?
No, I don't think you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you guys helped with rewrites.
No, we didn't
per
have with
se.
rewrites, but we sat down one day and read it all together and
Yeah, that was helpful.
Yeah.
we were
I feel like
oh.
stuff changed a little after that, a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there was some improv and
yeah,
stuff.
Jason, you're known for sticking to the script, right?
What do you mean? we worked together a lot.
Yeah.
So it was very hard, and he's very rigid. He doesn't want to go off the script.
Right.
So it was very hard to bring him to that area.
Right.
And when people aren't good at improv, it's always about they always go dirty. I don't know why, but they do. And I kept telling him stop making those types of jokes.
It's true. It's true.
But it's okay. He learned
This movie was supposed to be PG.
in one iteration.
Yeah.
I still would like. Can I do this? I still would like. There is a 15-minute sequence in which I just describe eating pussy. That is the reason why in the scene with Grace Gummer I am going down on her because
Right.
originally that scene was just going to be
You
us
guys having
having sex or something.
Yeah.
But because I'd made such a big meal, quote unquote, out of the speech about eating pussy, it was like, oh, what if I'm going down on her? But then the eating pussy speech got cut.
Yeah, which I was very mad about.
How dare you?
But
It's gonna get there, guys. It'll be on YouTube soon.
But it's there. You planted the seed.
Yeah.
It all added up.
Well, there is like a second of it. Like
Yeah.
the beginning of it is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But none of the diagrams.
Guys, the story is so good.
The what?
The story is so
no.
good. Maybe that's for when you go on Colbert.
Sure.
He's going on Colbert.
The whole thing I'll do on Colbert is just tell the story of eating pussy.
I saw you raise your hand there. Yes, go ahead.
The segment is gonna be weird now, but I'm from New Mexico.
Boo!
Also an escape room champion upstairs. And we have some pretty cool and weird food. Frito Pie got a shout out.
Oh, yeah.
If you ate anything in New Mexico other than pussy, we
Nope.
ate a lot of
Red, like Christmas chili. Yeah.
A lot of heavy stuff.
I did not eat anything.
I gained
No?
10 pounds eating fucking Christmas chili.
What's Christmas chili exactly?
Red and green chili.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
But not everything.
And you didn't eat, Tony, you didn't eat anything?
At all. I was like Gandhi when I was shooting this movie.
Really? Why?
Tony had decided that his character was going to be Christian Bale's character in The Machinist, and that he was going to get like emaciated, like really ripped up. He was like, I want like a CrossFit dad bod, just super ripped up on the verge of injuring myself.
That's exactly what I did.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why you don't see
It
me.
informs every choice on screen.
Yeah. Well, that's why you always had like a knee brace on and like an elbow thing, and you kept like throwing out your fucking back doing CrossFit. Yes, sir.
This is for Jason. There's like a theme.
Guys, don't even listen. All right, it's just you and me, buddy. What do we got?
So there's like a theme through some of the characters you've played previously.
Disagree.
What it is that like draws you to those roles that are like, I don't know, a little strange, a little.
I don't know. I mean, I like I guess I like people who are kind of on the kind of fringes, broken, kind of emotional people who I think in this case, reading the script that Hannah and Carson had written, I loved this guy who is kind of like out there on the edge of society, like has very strong opinions, is all bluff and bluster, but underneath it, it's all like raw emotional vulnerability, and it's everything he's doing. I think like in doing this, especially, I feel like both the script that they wrote and then Hannah cast in Tony and I, it really was like that fine line between it could have been a scary movie or it could have been a funny movie, and the difference is just how scary is Richard? Like how real is that threat versus how much of that threat is him puffing up because of a life spent in sketchy scenarios? Oh,
No, I think, but those were just real talk for a second. Those were
real talk.
Those were the conversations that we were having most on set, because actually the script called for a Richard that was scarier, and something that I like to do with the actors that I work with is obviously they're going to bring themselves and parts of themselves to the role, and I never want to be that authoritative director who's like, you must do it my way. I mean, you saw this character in the way that you saw it, and,
sure.
and which I loved
Yep.
that version. So I'm very glad that you put your spin on it, because otherwise I don't think it, you know.
Otherwise, there would be no mention of the Fast and Furious in this movie, which is pretty important.
Yeah.
And I just want to like say, having been a part of a number of Jason's maniac character experiences, what is fun about this movie and what's so nice about the combination of the three of you and everyone else who worked on the film is that it has some of the unhinged qualities that a lot of his characters have had and scenarios, but I think the marriage of what the alchemy of what the three of you guys have is it's like there's real heart there and sympathy, and you really kind of love these guys in a way that you shouldn't, or normally in these films you don't, and it's a really nice marriage of different influences into the film. So.
You okay? You okay? Are you
I
crying?
just want to make sure I
Nick
said
Kroll
it.
is crying? Are you weeping openly?
I'm emotional.
Oh, God.
Auditioning for Hannah's next movie. Yes.
Me?
Yes.
First of all, Hannah, I know you're from DC, and I think that's super cool because that's where I'm from.
Hi.
But so I am at school in New York now, and one of my application essays for college was actually on Game Changer films, and
Yeah.
something that really struck me is something that Nick was actually just talking about. Was I was just reading that they allegedly like don't really care, like a lot of companies do, about whether or not a filmmaker is writing with a script that has like a strong female protagonist, because it's really about telling whatever story she wants to tell. And I was just wondering if, like, working with them, if you could see that, if like you really found that.
I think so Game Changer Films financed the movie. It's a film fund created specifically to get female directors movies made, and they finance the whole thing. So to answer your question, no, we got quite a bit of pushback internally, and Minette Louie, who is the president of Game Changer, really fought hard to explain to them why actually making this movie and having me make this kind of movie was a progressive act and was in line with their mandate. So yeah, I'm just very happy that they made it.
Yes.
What I appreciated about the film was that it was like a non-romance romance.
Yeah.
Because I think that the male characters had depth, and that's something I appreciated. Something I think the film could have gone a totally different way after you freaked out on Casey Rose Wilson's character, and I'm sure a lot of other people were like, "Am I supposed to like this character?"
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that, because he almost seemed like an anti-hero?
Yeah, I think throughout the whole film, we want you to really wonder, do we like this character? And to me, those are the most interesting people, because they're not giving you everything all at once, and you just don't know. And especially for a film like this, where we've all seen road trip movies before. We weren't really trying to make something entirely new out of this sort of time-tested type of film, this genre. But at the same time, we wanted to keep people on their toes and not see what's going to happen on the next page when they're reading it, or what's going to happen in the next scene if they're watching it. So part of that is really making Jason unreliable, or Richard, Jason, whoever you are, and so that was important to both myself and to Carson when we were writing the movie.
How for Tony, like having to play off of an unreliable character, also playing with Jason, who's an improviser, who's gonna like, what was that experience like for you?
It was a bit new. Just
This
because-
isn't how Wes Anderson works?
It's exactly the
Right. Yeah.
Wes Anderson doesn't put you in a minivan with a bear and say, like, figure it out. Actually, I do believe he would do that.
Yeah.
But the bear would be wearing like an impeccably tailored corduroy suit and speak like perfect Russian. I'm sorry, I shouldn't reveal Wes's bear.
No, it's just finding the balance of, as you said, the character is unreliable. And so why is this character, Nat, my character, continuing to go upon this journey with someone who obviously does, these eccentric things, and that's why we see him attempt to leave him in the motel, and be forced upon him. And the funny thing is, by the end of the film, when he finally starts making decisions for himself, finally says, "I'm through with you, I'm done," he needs him more than ever.
Right.
And that's when he is his most reliable. And I think that's just great storytelling. I think that's just great. So it was finding the balance of trying to figure out how how naive and how innocent this kid is, who is traveling, and how far he's going to grow by the end of the film. To realize that although Richard is an adult, he's just as much insecure, unsure of himself. And
Well, that's the thing that I really liked about the movie, is that it wasn't like the older guy is like the mentor who needs to
Right.
teach the kid
Right.
a bunch of life lessons. Here's what I know. Like Richard is
No matter
like,
how hard you try
yeah,
to give it.
yeah, that's what I think Richard thinks he's doing. But like he really is learning as much from Nat as Nat is learning from him. They are both kind of need a little bit of what the other has, which I really liked. That it wasn't like that kind of a, oh, I'm the wise kind of teacher.
But I love that, like, still at the end of the film, you still have your flaws, I still have my flaws, and you can tell the characters are going to keep growing beyond this film.
Do you think
In
they?
the sequel, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think they come back together? Do you think they ever see each other again?
This is my theory, but also hope for the sequel. He wins the lottery, buys a bunch of boats, and then we have a sequel, Long Dumb Road.
But it's on,
Right
it's on
away.
the ocean.
It's on the ocean.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
sorry, what is that?
Sequel.
SEAQUEL.
Yes, up top. Oh no, I was actually pointing to the woman behind you. Sorry. You, yeah.
Hi. Were the characters made off of anyone in your life?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. So this movie came to be because a friend of mine ended up moving from Austin, Texas to Los Angeles. And he befriended a drifter type, and they drove quite a ways until the situation became just totally untenable. And they then parted ways. But it made a really big impression on my friend, and when he told me this story, I just thought this was such a great starting point for a film, and for I personally like to start with characters first, and he did a much better job than I just did of explaining what happened. But the characters that he told me were so already drawn that it was quite obvious that I had a lot to work with, and then I enlisted my friend Carson, who also knows this person as well, and we just sort of went to town on it.
Sorry. Go ahead. So yeah. Did you have some? No. Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
What was y'all's favorite line in the movie?
You're asking us what our favorite line in the. What was your favorite line?
Can I guess what your favorite line was? Can I?
Please.
I would have to watch it twice.
Yeah.
That's your favorite line? When Richard says, I'd have to watch it twice. I don't know that I have a favorite line in the movie. I'm trying to think. Was there anything that like really tickled us, or something that was like particularly? No.
It was funny when you just poked your head out. You were like, in or out, guy?
Oh, yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
I really like the scene where you're pissed that he's not being polite to the driver.
Oh yeah.
Because I thought it was funny, and you're so pissed, but it also gives all this insight into the upper middle class kid who has who doesn't know how to say.
Who doesn't say please and thank you? Who doesn't have
hasn't
manners?
worked in that
Yeah.
place.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of outrage, that kind of like class outrage that Richard gets in sometimes. Like the same thing when I love the line, I spent my whole life trying to get out of a trailer park and you're making me stay, and you're bringing me back to one, or whatever it is. Like I love that, both because it's a great line, but also because it's like, that's so perfect. That's such that is such an interesting thing that, you know, a kid like Nat is like, let's stay in a trailer park. This will be fun.
Yeah. Let's do an escape room.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome music.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
What was the significance of choosing the Southwest?
When I think of American road trip, I grew up on the East Coast, very different landscape, obviously, than the Southwest. So when you see the saguaro cacti and the open desert, and it just something about it just exudes this otherness, and that's the vibe that I wanted to imbue.
It's beautiful. The open sky, like all those shots, the wides, the establishing shot, everything throughout is so beautiful.
Well, when we sorry to
No,
cut you
that's
off, but when we were making it, sort of the running joke with my director of photography was that we wanted this to be like a big, broad comedy that looked like No Country for Old Men. And so what that meant was we really wanted to focus on the landscape. We really wanted to shoot wide for all you film nerds in here. We shot anamorphic and put like a shit ton of grain when we were coloring it. So it had a little bit more texture, but the lenses themselves were very old, from the 70s. They had this like really cool quality that you just don't find anymore. So that's beautiful. Yeah.
2 more questions. Then we have to...
2 more?
No. We
Boo!
more.
Who are you?
We got a guy in a Pepsi sweatshirt.
Let's
and a guy in a Polaroid
let's
t-shirt
lightning
sitting
round
right
this.
next to
Let's
each other.
lightning round a bunch. Let's go.
So guys, say your questions at the same time.
Go.
Yeah. Come on, we got it.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, 1, 2.
Oh boy.
Do you think? I'm wondering if...
One more time.
Okay. It seems like that was a wonderful performance. I feel like you made the full transition from a freshman in art school to like a junior in art school. Upperclassman. And I'm wondering if you could speak to how the movie influenced you. That's a stupid question.
Oh no! Oh no! You're imploding.
It's all right.
You're doing great.
Good, man.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Tony, honor him with a great answer.
Yeah.
You started that question as a junior, finished it as a freshman.
I think it's like I was saying before, Nat starts this movie as an innocent young kid, as you said, a freshman, and by the end of it he's making decisions and really living his own life and kind of gone through things that makes him more adult. And of course, you know, it is a movie, so these characters grow rapidly, and that's maybe not real life, but it is, and that's why we see him in the last scene when he goes into his dorm room with his roommate. You know, his roommate seems like he was at the beginning of the film, while he has already aged. He's grown. Oh shit! Did you?
But you do see the dorm room,
You do see the dorm
which
room.
is
Someone
like,
has
and
been living in that room.
I walked
Already.
you walk into that room and you're like, oh fuck, right, like he's about to start this
He's about to
process.
start school, and it really.
And then you find that roommate dead in the closet.
And then the bombs start falling. Mushroom cloud. World War III.
All right, Polaroid, quick.
Okay, so we got a big transit of like contrast between Nat.
I can't believe you went with the friend.
We're gonna do more. We're gonna do more.
We're gonna do more. Go ahead.
Okay, Nat's looking at all the photos. He's being all nostalgic, and Richard is just looking at the lottery. Do you think they both got something like some emotional satisfaction out of everything, or do you think Nat really got something where Richard kind of was just around there?
I think it's both the characters were kind of using each other, and that's why in the scene where he says, "You're just using me," it's like they're both using each other, and everyone kind of uses everyone, and that's not a bad term. It's got a negative connotation, but everyone uses each other for support, for love, for care. So I think they definitely got something out of it. Whether
That's very deep.
Hey, he wanted a great answer. I'm giving him a great answer because that's a senior level question. And no, but I do think Richard got something out of it, which was, I think, growth.
I think both are changed. I think
Yeah.
both are changed at the end of the movie. Not like foundationally, fundamentally, but
No.
I think both have had a positive effect on each other. You know?
Yeah. Questions?
Hi. So one of my favorite scenes was when they get picked up in the pickup truck by the woman that I just realized plays Leslie Knope's mom.
Yeah.
That's right.
Pamela Reed is her name.
enraptured in their story, and did that actually happen to your friends?
Okay, I'm so happy that you asked this. I'm gonna quickly respond. You guys chime in.
Yep.
So we had a whole scene written out. Pamela.
Baseball.
Yeah, Pamela came. I told her I wanted to improvise that scene. She came in with this baseball metaphor analogy
About talking about love, basically.
Right.
It was a lot about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And then you very smartly said, let's try something else, I think.
Well, it was that she was telling a story about love that wasn't exactly where either of us was at that point in the movie.
Right.
It was like a philosophical statement about what it means to be in love, and it had like this whole baseball element to it. And it really wasn't about, like, it seemed like the story she should tell should be about, that should drive Nat to want to go to Francois's house to get his stuff back. It should inspire him not to fall in love or not to be in love or not to find love, but instead it should inspire him to, like, not take this shit, to go and get his fucking shit back, to get his camera, to get his stuff, and that it was about a story of someone persevering in the face of a threat.
Ever looming.
Or whatever.
Right. So she then came back with this. The guys had not heard that story, and she just crushed it.
Oh yeah, like a bunch of very long takes.
Yeah.
Where she just like outlined that story that you see in the movie about facing down a mama bear, and it was amazing.
Potatoes and her carrots.
I think you left out my favorite line of that scene, which was, and that's why this leg is fake. You'll never say.
She's also in Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
I think that's all the time we have. Thank you guys. Thank you. I'll just say one last thing. Making independent films are incredibly hard, and getting the word out about independent films are very incredibly hard. So I would ask for all of you guys, if you're on social media, tell your friends, post about this movie, because that's the way this movie gets seen and seen by more and more people. So they're too classy to ask you. I'm not. So go and
I will
post
be even more bold. If the more people see this movie in this city, in this theater, means people in other cities get to see it. Means it'll get to open in Austin or Portland or Seattle or places that would want to see this movie. So please tell your friends who are in this city, please come see this movie again. Buy tickets, don't come, I don't care. Please spread the word, because it's hugely important, inexplicably, that we sell these seats over and over.
So tell your friends to come this weekend. It's
Yes.
incredible. If this movie can spread out further, it'll be based on people coming to this theater. Thank you guys.
Thank you.